Hello, I am Coach Irene. I have been teaching English language for more than 5 years. In this exquisite video, we are going to be talking about the types of sentences. We have simple sentence, compound sentence, complex sentence, and compound complex sentence. Let's jump right in. Welcome to Level Up with Coach Irene. Let us begin with simple sentence. What is a simple sentence? A simple sentence is a sentence that consists of only one independent clause, which means it has a subject and a predicate or verb and expresses a complete thought. I believe you already know what an independent clause is. An independent clause contains both a subject and a verb. If you want to know more about clauses, do well to click the link in the description box. There, I talked about everything that has to do with clauses. Let us look at the characteristics of a simple sentence. Number one, it has one independent clause, meaning it contains only one subject-verb combination. For example, Tom went outside to play. In this sentence, we have one subject, Tom, and one verb, went. This shows that this sentence has just one independent clause. If I decide to add more information, for example, Tom went outside to play and he lost his ball. In this sentence, I have two independent clauses. Tom went outside to play and he lost his ball. Therefore, this sentence is no longer a simple sentence but a compound sentence because it has two independent clauses. Let us look at another characteristic. Number two, a simple sentence does not contain dependent clauses. Let us look at the initial example. Tom went outside to play is a simple sentence. However, if you say Tom went outside to play because he was bored is a dependent clause, and so this will no longer be a simple sentence. Therefore, in order to make a simple sentence, you do not need a dependent clause. Number three, simple sentences can be short, like she smiles, or long, like the tall man in the blue jacket walked down the street with his dog. Other examples include the dog barked loudly. I enjoy reading books. He went to the park. Note, the sentence is formed with a subject plus a predicate or verb plus objects or complements or modifiers. An object is a noun, pronoun, or noun phrase that receives the action of a verb or is affected by it. It answers the question what or whom after the verb. For example, they elected him president. They is a subject, whilst him, who did they elect? Him, the president, is the object. They elected him. Him is the object referring to the president. In simple terms, subject gives the action, whilst object receives the action. Let's look at the meaning of a complement. A complement provides additional information about the subject or object to complete the meaning of a sentence. Complements can be nouns, pronouns, or adjectives. For example, the cake is delicious. Here, delicious is the complement describing the cake. Lastly, let's look at the meaning of modifiers. A modifier is a word, phrase, or clause that provides additional information about another word in a sentence. It can describe, limit, or clarify. For example, the tall man is my friend. Tall describes the noun man. In summary, object receives the action or verb. Complements completes the meaning of the subject or object, whilst modifier adds detail to another word or phrase. To proceed, let us look at the second type of sentences. We have compound sentence. A compound sentence is a sentence that contains two or more independent clauses, also known as main clauses, joined by a coordinating conjunction, a semicolon, or a conjunctive adverb. Each independent clause in a compound sentence can stand alone as a complete sentence because it has its own subject and predicate and can express a complete thought. It is formed with an independent clause plus coordinating conjunction plus independent clause. For example, I wanted to go for a walk, but it started raining. Here, I wanted to go for a walk is an independent clause, but is a coordinating conjunction, and it started raining is another independent clause. It can also be formed with an independent clause plus a semicolon plus independent clause. For example, I wanted to go for a walk, it started raining. Lastly, it can be formed with an independent clause plus a conjunctive adverb plus independent clause. For example, I wanted to go for a walk, however, it started raining. The features of a compound sentence include independent clause. For example, I wanted to go to the beach. This sentence has a subject and a predicate, and it expresses a complete thought. Therefore, it is an independent clause. Another feature of a compound sentence is coordinating conjunction. This is a word that connects two independent clauses of equal importance. They include for, and, nor, but, or, yet, so. For example, I wanted to go to the beach, but it was too cold. But in this sentence is the coordinating conjunction, joining the independent clause and the other independent clause. Another characteristic of the compound sentence is the use of a semicolon. It is a punctuation mark used to join two independent clauses. For example, I wanted to go to the beach, it was too cold. Here, the column joined the two independent clauses without needing a conjunction. Another feature is a conjunctive adverb. This is a word that connects two independent clauses and shows the relationship between them. The conjunctive adverbs include however, therefore, moreover, thus, consequently, meanwhile, furthermore, nevertheless, on the other hand, indeed, and more. For example, I wanted to go to the beach, however, it was too cold. Lastly, when using coordinating conjunctions, a comma is usually placed before the conjunction if the clauses are both long and complex. For example, she wanted to go to the concert, but she couldn't find her tickets. Other examples of compound sentences include she loves reading and he enjoys writing. Here, you can see that there is no comma. The general rule is that a comma is used only when both independent clauses are long or complex. Another example would be she ran and he walked. Another example would be I enjoy hiking and my sister loves camping. Moving on, let's look at number 3, complex sentence. A complex sentence is a sentence that contains one independent clause, that is, a complete thought, and at least one dependent clause, that is, a group of words that cannot stand alone as a complete thought. The dependent clause is connected to the independent clause by a subordinating conjunction. They include although, because, since, if, while, when, or a relative pronoun, for example, who, which, that. It is formed with an independent clause plus a subordinating conjunction plus a dependent clause. For example, I stayed home because it was raining. The independent clause in the sentence is I stayed home, whilst the dependent clause is because it was raining, as it cannot stand alone. The subordinating conjunction in this sentence is because. It can also be formed with a subordinating conjunction plus a dependent clause plus an independent clause. For example, although she was tired, she kept working. The dependent clause in this sentence came first, although she was tired, followed by the independent clause. She kept working. Note that the dependent clause, although she was tired, cannot stand alone. Therefore, it needs a dependent clause. The subordinating conjunction in this sentence is although. Subordinating conjunctions help to introduce the dependent clause and show the relationship between the clauses. Let us look at some punctuation rules in complex sentences. If the dependent clause comes first, use a comma to separate the clauses. For example, because it was raining, we stayed inside. If you observe, because it was raining was followed by a comma. Before the independent clause, we stayed inside. If the independent clause comes first, no comma is needed. For example, we stayed inside because it was raining. Note that coordinating conjunctions and subordinating conjunctions are different. Whilst coordinating conjunctions are used for compound sentences, subordinating conjunctions are used for complex sentences. If you want to know more about conjunction, click the link in the description box where I talked about everything that has to do with conjunctions. Other examples of complex sentences include I will call you when I arrive at the airport. She cried because she was upset. If it rains tomorrow, we will stay inside. Although it was late, he still managed to finish the project. Lastly, let us look at compound complex sentences. A compound complex sentence is a sentence structure that combines elements of both compound and complex sentences. It consists of at least two independent clauses and one or more dependent clauses. It is formed with an independent clause plus coordinating conjunction plus independent clause plus subordinating conjunction plus dependent clause. For example, I stayed up late, but I finished my homework because I had an important deadline. It can also be formed with a dependent clause plus independent clause plus coordinating conjunctions plus independent clause. For example, although it was raining, I went for a run and I enjoyed the fresh air. Another structure of a compound complex sentence is An independent clause plus subordinating conjunction plus dependent clause plus coordinating conjunction plus independent clause. For example, we went out for dinner when the movie ended and we talked about the plot. Let us look at how to identify a compound complex sentence. Look for at least two independent clauses joined by a coordinating conjunction. For example, and, but, so, and more. Number two, check for at least one dependent clause that begins with a subordinating conjunction like because, if, why, etc. Number three, confirm all clauses work together in one sentence. Note that a number of learners make mistakes when making these compound complex sentences, and one of the mistakes is run-on sentences. In this type of sentence, the individual failed to properly join clauses with punctuations or conjunctions. For example, I like coffee. I drink it every morning because it wakes me up. This sentence is incorrect as there is no punctuation or conjunction to make the sentence correct. Let's look at the correct sentence. I like coffee and I drink it every morning because it wakes me up. With these, we have come to the end of this lesson. I believe that you got value. Do well to ask your questions in the comments section. Like, share, and subscribe to our Exquisite channel. I'll see you in my next video. Bye for now.